screen basics. All right, let's take a look at the base elements of the course. When you create a new course, the only fields required really are the course code and the title. You really can build one out for that as a base and then come back to it later, save it and come back and work on it later. We'll talk about the options under type and how those might work. Again, we'll cover this later, but generally, most of the time, you're only creating a course from scratch, that is with a completely blank course form, if you are building out a brand new course, if you would a virgin class. Because if you've got classes you have offered before and you're doing another section or you're doing an annual program and doing it the next year, we would really recommend that you use the clone feature, which again we'll cover in this approach. Oh, fields on the course screen, category versus type. Now again, category is a user-defined one. It's your way to group together classes by a group or category. We have some examples in that when you receive the program. You absolutely can change those. So we talk about the plus button. That means you can edit the codes behind that. Open is something that is, or the type of class, that is a system setting. And again, there are different behaviors that happen when you change the type of class. And so the types that we have, independent study, this gives you a way to build a class that lets you track lessons. Inventory class, it's a way for you to track sales if you wanted to have a class for book sales or a class for t-shirts. You can have people put that on the line and let people buy that independently. Online classes, if it's an online open enrollment asynchronous class where dates aren't really a big deal, gives you some special features. Membership class, again, for OSHA programs or programs that have classes that are membership-based, it allows you to set up the course that you're on as a way to record memberships and assign a membership code and an expiration date to people who pay the membership. Open class, this is, if you would, the normal or regular. You may set a preference on what is your default type. Pending, now back to that said we could put in just a course number and a course title and actually save the course. Sometimes if you're working up the design of a program, you're a program manager and you're thinking about building out a class but you don't have the details, you can create a class, give it a title, give it a code, call it pending, and then go in and set up the details on it. Build out a budget, work up maybe your description, and then once you've kind of gotten all your editing done, you can switch the status from pending to open or whatever it falls under. A workshop class allows tracking of sub-events. Contract course, again, gives you a way to categorize your course for a contract program. That's an in-house program, typically a private program for a particular company, for those that do business-to-business private training. Workforce particular event program. For ACEware, for student manager, you can always add a multiple seat purchase. We'll talk about that in registration. But on ACEware, calling a class or defining a class as an event would allow you to let students purchase multiple tickets, if you would, to a class. And what that typically falls into are things like a reception or a gala celebration where you're selling a $10 ticket to a wine and cheese social hoo-ha, hoo-ha. And all you just need to know is how many bodies are going to come. So you can put up an event class and a student can go in and register and say, I want 20 tickets. You multiply out the purchase, or it could be free, I think. I haven't tried a free one, Lori. But to track a head count for a more of an open access activity. All right, donation. Again, in the student manager back office registration entry, you can manage accepting payments about any way you want. On ACEware, however, what it allows you to do is set up a class in your ACEware that a individual can actually write in the amount of money they want to donate and then pay for that with their credit card. So it basically allows for, you don't have to set categories of fees for a donation. They can put in either one or one with a lot of zeros behind it, hopefully. Okay, optional module, package 1, package 2. These are an optional, they are part of the BOGO packaging optional module, and is a great tool for bundling classes together. There is a webinar on that. So Active, this is one that generally always creates a bunch of discussion, but the big deal about Active is for student manager users, the back office, I should say student manager, the people in the back office who use student manager to do registration. In order to see a class to register, when you're in a name and you want to do add registration, a class must be active. Now the flip of this is, when that class is no longer open for registration, you need to deactivate it. And that is a manual process. We do not automatically deactivate courses inside the student manager, your admin back office side. And again, so that as a class is finished and it's closed, nobody else can register. Or again, if you're building classes for next January already or next fall, but you don't want them showing up in the registration sequence for your end of summer registrations, you make them inactive. And again, I'll reiterate, active and again, if you regularly deactivate, your staff will love you. It speeds up registration a huge amount. And I think the mass change option, there is a tool to do this under the course screen. And I'm going to actually flip to the desktop because I want to show this live. Your student manager now will be, the new student manager 8 is now purple, so we have a distinctive look to it. Sign on is the same. Student callbacks, reminder notes, and the email course reminder. We'll cover this again, but this is part of the automatic send a reminder email feature to students in upcoming classes that you can define. Brings up a mail merge personal email that you'd hit fire away. Everybody in a class that meets in that time frame would get a private email. All right, so we're back at the main system. I wanted to go to that tool that deactivates courses. Courses, mass change, update, delete is where you can say change the active status to inactive, and you're going to typically do it where the begin date or the end date is between a range of dates. So if you're saying it's now the 20th of May, we're not going to register any new people in any classes that started between the 1st of the year and the 20th. So we're going to say 101, 14 through 05, 21. And you'll note I'm going to tab out of the date field. It automatically puts in today's or the year. So for date entry, if you just type the last 2 digits of the year, 14, it will fill out the current year, or just leave it blank. I'm going to delete that. I'm just going to tab. It fills out the year. I didn't know that until just this last year. All right, let's run it. Change the active status, and you've automatically updated the active status. And again, you say, well, what if I did it wrong and I need to reactivate? Not a problem. You can always go back to the course and turn the active button back on. All right, we good on that, Lori? Everybody's finally got it. Locked class. The locked feature on the course is something that is normally reserved for cases when, if you have a situation where you want to not allow any editing or changes in a course, and typically if you have a business manager that goes through, does the refunds, deposits all the money, verifies that the course due and paid is equal, there are no outstanding bills, no outstanding expenses, then they lock that class, and it's just kind of a fail-safe so nobody accidentally removes or changes data when they weren't supposed to. Again, it really helps. It's generally an audit, an auditing lockdown to make sure no changes are being done. Validated fields. We have lots of validated fields in the system. You see the little drop downs at a number of these fields. That allows you to make sure your data is correct, and as you know, all fields that have a plus by them, and you do have to have a certain access level within your user levels, at least a 4, you can actually edit and add codes for those values in the drop down.